The call from Oliver came exactly 3 months after Grandma Isabella's funeral. I was knee-deep in quarterly reports at my desk when my phone buzzed, displaying his name like an omen. My name is Presley, and until 6 months ago, I was nothing more than a shadow of myself, the dutiful wife of Damon Duncan, living in his world by his rules. Now at 38, I'm finally becoming the woman I was meant to be.
Presley,
We need to talk. Alan's voice carried an urgency I hadn't heard since my divorce proceedings. It's about Isabella Will. I straightened in my chair, ignoring the stack of reports demanding my attention. I thought everything was settled weeks ago. There's been a development. Can you come by the office today? The fluorescent light suddenly felt too bright, too harsh. Alan, you're scaring me. What's going on? It's better discussed in person. How's 4 o'clock? After hanging up, I stared at my reflection in the darkened computer screen. The woman looking back at me wasn't the same person who'd signed divorce papers a year ago. My hair was shorter, now professional, my eyes harder, more determined. Damon had always insisted I keep my hair long, one of his many attempts to mold me into his perfect wife. Earth to Presley. Michaela's voice cut through my thoughts as she leaned against my office. Dusra, you look like you've seen a ghost. Just got a weird call from Oliver about Grandma's will. She crossed her arms, frowning the lawyer. Oliver. I thought that was all wrapped up, so did I. I grabbed my purse, needing to move to do something, want to grab coffee, at our usual spot across from the office. Michael stirred her latte while I recounted the call. You don't think Damon's trying something?
do you?
The question made my stomach clench. He can't. The divorce settlement was clear. Honey, when has that ever stopped him? She had a point during our marriage. Damon had expertly manipulated every situation to his advantage. Even now, months after signing the papers, I sometimes caught myself second-guessing my decisions. His voice in my head, telling me I wasn't capable, wasn't smart enough. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Sadie, my sister. Have you heard from Alan? She asked, without preamble. Just got off the phone with him. You too. Yeah, something's up, Prez. I don't like it. I checked my watch, still 3 hours until the meeting. Meet me at his office. Already on my way. Michael squeezed my hand. Want me to come with? No, but thanks. I need to handle this. The words came out stronger than I felt. Look at you all. Grown up and facing your demons, she smiled. Remember, when you couldn't even order coffee without checking with Damon first? I winced at the memory. God. I was pathetic. No, you were controlled. There's a difference. The walk to Oliver's office gave me time to think. Grandma Isabella had left me, her estate, the house, the investments, everything she'd always seen through Damon's facade. Warning me years before I'd finally seen the truth myself. A woman's worth isn't measured by her husband's approval. She told me once, her wise eyes seeing right through my carefully constructed happiness. Oliver's secretary ushered me into his office. Immediately, Sadie was already there, pacing by the window. Thanks for coming so quickly, Alan said, gesturing to the chairs. We have a situation, just tell us. Sadie demanded. Still standing, Oliver pulled out a thick folder. I received a letter this morning from Sophia, Mitchell's lawyer. My blood ran cold. Sophia, Damon's new wife, the woman he'd left me for. What could she possibly want? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Half of Isabella's estate. Alan's voice was grim. She's claiming Damon has rights to it through your marriage. Sadie cursed. That's ridiculous. They're divorced. It gets worse. Alan continued. They're threatening to contest the will if we don't settle. I sat very still, remembering Grandma Isabella's last words to me. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people think they're winning. What aren't you telling us? Alan? I asked quietly. He smiled for the first time since we'd arrived. Your grandmother was a brilliant woman.
Presley.
She anticipated something like this might happen. He pulled out another document, this one sealed. She left specific instructions not to open this unless someone contested the will. My hand shook as I took the envelope. What's in it? I don't know, Alan admitted. But knowing Isabella, I'd say Damon and his new wife are in for quite a surprise. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 a.m. the next morning. I was already dressed for work, sipping coffee, and reviewing the contents of Grandma Isabella's sealed envelope, when Sophia's perfectly manicured finger pressed the button again and again. Coming, I called, tucking the documents into my briefcase. Sophia stood on my porch like she owned it, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Her smile didn't reach her eyes.
Presley.
Darling, it's been too long, has it? I stepped aside, letting her enter. I think the last time was at your wedding to my ex-husband. She laughed. The sound brittle water under the bridge. Surely we're practically family. What do you want, Sophia? She settled onto my couch without waiting for an invitation.
Direct.
I like that. Well, let's be equally direct. Damon and I want to discuss Isabella estate. There's nothing to discuss. I remained standing watching her examine her nails. Oh, but there she pulled out her phone, scrolling through what looked like legal documents.
You see.
Damon was married to you when Isabella made her will. That creates certain entitlements. I fought to keep my voice steady. Does it? And what does your lawyer say about that? Her head snapped up, surprise flickering across her face. How did you know about the lawyer? Oliver called me yesterday. He's very thorough. Sophia's composure slipped for just a moment. Then, we have a case.
Do you?
I walked to my kitchen, pouring another cup of coffee. Would you like some? No. Thank you. She stood following me. Presley, we can do this, the easy way or the hard way. Damon's willing to settle for half. I nearly choked on my coffee. Willing to settle. That's generous of him. He has rights. He has nothing. I set my cup down harder than intended. And, you know what's interesting? He sent you to do his dirty work. Still can't face me himself. Sophia's perfectly painted lips tightened. Damon thought I could handle this more diplomatically. Diplomatically. I laughed. Is that what this is? My phone buzzed, a text from Sadie on my way. Don't let her leave. Look. Sophia's voice softened, almost sympathetic. I know you're still hurt about everything. Stop. I held up my hand. Let me be very clear. I'm not hurt. I'm not bitter. I'm not even angry anymore. What I am is done with Damon's games. The doorbell rang again. Sophia jumped. Sadie burst in before I could answer. Alan, right behind her. Sorry we're late. Traffic was horrible. My sister's voice was deliberately cheerful. Oh, Sophia. What a surprise. Sophia's eyes darted between them. I should go, actually. Alan stepped forward. I think you should stay. We have some documents to discuss. I don't have to talk to you. Sophia grabbed her purse. My lawyer, your lawyer. Oliver interrupted, should have done better research. Isabella made changes to her will 3 months before she died, after Presley's divorce was finalized. I watched the color drain from Sophia's face. That's impossible. We checked the public records. Sadie smiled. Grandma was smarter than that. Alan pulled out a document. This is the actual will filed privately, and this he produced. Another paper is a detailed account of every attempt Damon made to access Isabella finances while married to Presley. Sophia's hands shook as she took the papers. I don't understand. It's simple. I said Grandma knew Damon would try something like this. She kept records every time he asked about her investments, every time. He suggested Presley help manage her accounts. Every time he tried to convince her to add his name to her properties, that's not. Sophia swallowed hard. Damon wouldn't, he would, and he did. Sadie's voice was steel, and now he's using you to try again. Sophia sank into a chair, papers crumbling in her grip. He said it was a sure thing that she'd cave rather than fight. He was wrong. I took the documents gently from her hands and, Sophia, you might want to check your joint accounts. Damon has a habit of making investments disappear when things don't go his way. Her head snapped up, real fear in her eyes. Now she grabbed her phone, fingers flying over the screen. Oh God, she whispered, the savings.
They're gone.
Let me guess. Sadie said he moved them yesterday, right after you agreed to come here. Sophia stood abruptly, mascara smearing as she wiped her eyes. I have to go. Sophia. I called as she reached the door. There's one more thing you should know. She turned, looking suddenly much younger and more vulnerable. Grandma's will has a clause. If anyone contests it, Everything goes to charity. Everything. The door closed behind her with a quiet click. Well, Sadie grinned. That was fun, but I was already pulling out my phone. Sophia's devastated expression, haunting me. Alan, we need to make some calls. She's about to find out exactly what kind of man she married. The memory hit me as I was making dinner that night. Damon standing in our old kitchen, his voice dripping with condescension as he explained why I shouldn't take that promotion. Honey, you're just not ready for that kind of responsibility, he'd said, stirring his coffee. Besides, what would you do with all that extra money? I take care of everything we need. The sound of something shattering snapped me back to the present. I'd gripped the wine glass too hard, sending shards across my kitchen floor. Damn it, I muttered, reaching for the broom. My phone rang, Sophia's number flashing on the screen. I hesitated before answering. He's gone. Her voice was barely a whisper. He cleared out everything, even my personal account. I sat down heavily. How much? 290,000, she choked back a sob. My entire inheritance from my father. Sophia, don't say you warned me. There was rustling in the background. I thought I was different, special, not like me. Yes, the word came out broken. He said you were controlling, that you held him back. I couldn't help but laugh. Let me guess. He said I was jealous of his success, that I couldn't handle his ambition. How did you? Because that's his script. Sophia. He used the same lines on me about his first wife. Silence stretched between us. Finally, she spoke again. There was no first wife, was there? No, just like there was no Harvard MBA, no family money, no tech startup that failed because of betrayal by his partners. Oh God, her breathing became erratic. I'm going to be sick. Sophia. Listen to me, call your bank right now, report the transfers as fraudulent, then call the police. I'll have Oliver contact you in the morning. Why are you helping me? I thought about Grandma Isabella, about her strength and wisdom. Because 6 years ago, I was you. After hanging up, I called Sadie. You're not going to believe this, she answered. Damon just tried to buy a ticket to Belize.
How do you know that?
Remember Tommy from high school? He works for the airline, now called me. As soon as he saw the name, I grabbed my keys. Where is he? Airport flight leaves in 3 hours? Call Alan, tell him to meet me there. 19 minutes later, I pulled into the airport parking lot. Sadie was already waiting with Oliver and 3 police officers. Mishra, one officer stepped forward. We understand you have information about Mr. Duncan. Oliver handed them a file. Multiple counts of fraud, theft, and financial exploitation. We've been building this case for months, since Grandma died. I added. She kept everything, every document, every email, every transfer he tried to hide. This is impressive, the second officer said, flipping through the pages. But why didn't you come forward sooner? Because we needed him to do it again. Oliver explained. To establish a pattern show, it wasn't just one isolated incident. My phone, buzzed with a text from Sophia Bank, froze the accounts. They're investigating the transfers, and there it is. I showed them the message. His latest victim just filed a complaint. The officers exchanged looks. We'll need statements from both of you already prepared. Oliver produced more documents, along with testimony from his previous business partners. A voice came over the airport speakers announcing final boarding for the flight to Belize. Through the terminal windows, I saw him, Damon, striding toward the security checkpoint, still wearing the same confident smile that had once made me believe every lie. That's him. I nodded to the officers. They moved quickly, professionally. I watched as they intercepted him. As the smile faltered and died, he looked around wildly, finally spotting me standing with Sadie and Alan, he-mouthed face, contorting with rage. I thought of all the times he'd made me doubt myself, all the dreams I'd abandoned because he said I wasn't good enough. All the years I'd spent believing I was the problem. Karma's a bitch, Sadie muttered beside me, but watching the handcuffs click around his wrists, I felt no satisfaction, only relief, and something else, something that felt surprisingly like pity. My phone buzzed again. Sophia, thank you. I'm ready to tell the police everything you know, Sadie said as we watched them lead Damon away. Grandma would be proud of what sending my ex-husband to jail. She squeezed my hand of you finally standing up for yourself and for others. I thought about Sophia, about all the other women Damon might have targeted. If we hadn't stopped him, come on, I said, we have work to do. You need to see this. Sadie dropped a stack of papers on my kitchen table the next morning. The police found it in Damon's apartment. I pushed aside my coffee, pulling the documents closer, lists of women's names, dates, dollar amounts. My stomach turned as I realized what I was looking at. How many, I asked. 13, that we can confirm, all wealthy widows or divorcees. Sadie sat down heavily. He had their whole lives mapped out when they inherited, where they banked their vulnerabilities, like Sophia's father's death exactly. She tapped one of the pages. Look at the dates he started planning, Sophia, while you were still married. The doorbell rang before I could respond. Sophia stood on my porch looking nothing like the polished woman who'd arrived 3 days ago. Her eyes were red, her designer outfit replaced with jeans and a sweater. I brought bagels, she said quietly, and files, lots of files. We spread everything across my dining room table, bank statements, emails, photos. Sophia's hands shook as she pointed to specific transactions. He always had an explanation,
she said.
Every missing dollar, every strange transfer. He made it sound so reasonable. That's what he does. I replied, remembering my own experiences. He twists things until you doubt your own judgment like this. Sophia pulled out an email. He convinced me to invest in a startup, said it was a sure thing, but we had to move fast, no time for my lawyer to review it. Sadie snorted. Let me guess, the company doesn't exist. Oh, it exists. Sophia's laugh was bitter. It's a shell corporation. He owns it. My phone buzzed. Alan calling. I put him on speaker. The DA wants to meet, he said without preamble. They're building a RICO case. This goes beyond just fraud. What do you mean? I asked. Your grandmother's records were the key. They show a pattern going back 15 years, multiple states, multiple victims. It's organized crime. Sophia's face went pale. Organized? You mean he's not alone? We found evidence of at least 3 accomplices, people who helped him identify targets, set up fake companies, move money offshore. I thought about Grandma Isabella, how she'd spent her last years quietly gathering evidence. She knew. I whispered. That's why she left everything in trust, why she made it impossible for him to access smart women. Your grandmother, Alan said, she protected not just you, but others too. After the call ended, Sophia stared at the papers scattered across the table. I feel so stupid. Don't I? Touched her arm. He's a professional con man. This is what he does. Did he ever? She hesitated. Did he hit you? No. His violence was all emotional, mind games, gaslighting, constant criticism. He told me I was crazy. Sophia's voice cracked when I questioned the transfers, said I was being paranoid, that I needed help. Sadie's phone chimed with a news alert. She held it up, showing us the headline. Prominent businessman arrested in multi-state fraud scheme. It's really over. Sophia breathed. Not quite. I pulled out Grandma's original envelope, the one Oliver had given me. There's something else you should see. Inside was a letter written in Grandma's familiar handwriting. My dearest Presley, if you're reading this, it means someone, probably Damon, has tried to claim what isn't theirs. I'm leaving you not just my estate, but my purpose. The trust I've established isn't just for you. It's for all his victims, past and future. Use it to help them rebuild. Use it to stop him. All my love. Grandma. Isabella. Sophia wiped her eyes. She set up a fund for his victims.
Yes.
I showed her the trust documents, legal aid, financial counseling, whatever they need to recover your grandmother. Sophia shook her head in amazement. She planned all this. She believed in karma, Sadie said. But she also believed in helping it along. I looked at the women around my table. My sister, who'd never lost faith in me. Sophia finding her strength, and somewhere watching over us Grandma Isabella, who turned her pain into purpose. So I said, gathering the scattered papers, who's ready to help some people rebuild their lives. Sophia straightened her shoulders, a hint of her old confidence returning. Where do we start? We start. Sadie grinned by making some calls. There are 10 other women out there who need to know they're not alone. As we began organizing the files, I felt Grandma's presence strongly. She'd known this day would come, had prepared for it meticulously. Now it was our turn to carry on her work.
Hey.
Sophia caught my arm. Thank you for not saying I told you, so that's not what this is about. I replied. This is about making things right. The courthouse steps felt steeper than I remembered. 3 weeks had passed since Damon's arrest, and now we were facing the first bail hearing. Sophia walked beside me, her head high, despite the whispers and stares ready. I asked, as we reached the top before she could answer. A familiar voice cut through the morning air. Well, if it isn't my 3 favorite ex-wives. Damon stood at the entrance, flanked by his lawyer. He'd lost weight in detention, but his smile was the same, predatory, confident. Surprised to see you both here, he continued, supporting each other. How touching. Sophia's hand found mine, squeezing hard. Save it, Damon. We're not here for you.
No.
He stepped closer then. Why are you here? To watch the show, to feel vindicated? We're here for them. I nodded toward the group of women gathering near the courthouse doors, his other victims brought together by Grandma's trust. His smile faltered, slightly more bitter. Experience. Please, no judge will take this seriously. Actually, Oliver's voice came from behind us. The judge is very interested in hearing from everyone, especially about the offshore accounts we found yesterday. Damon's lawyer grabbed his arm. Don't say another word, but Damon shrugged him off his facade, cracking. You think you're so clever, don't you? Presley playing detective with mommy's money, grandmother's. I corrected, and she played detective long before I did. Want to know what else? She found. His face darkened. You're bluffing. Am I? I pulled out my phone, showing him an email. This is from 3 years ago. You discussing your investment strategy with your partners, the ones helping you target wealthy women. That's inadmissible. His lawyer started in criminal court. Maybe Oliver interrupted. But the civil suits these ladies are filing, that's different. Damon's composure finally broke. You vindictive bitch. You really think you can take me down? No. Sophia stepped forward. We already have the courthouse doors opened, and more women emerged. Faces I recognized from his files, each carrying documents, each ready to testify.
You see,
Damon, I said quietly, while you were sitting in jail, we were busy. Every woman you conned, every dollar you stole, every lie you told, it's all coming out. You can't prove anything, we don't have to. Sophia's voice was steel. You kept records, detailed ones, and guess what? The FBI is very interested in your little Netheryork. His lawyer was practically dragging him away now, but Damon couldn't help himself. I made you both, he shouted. You were nothing before me.
No.
I called after him. We were everything before you. We just forgot for a while. Inside the courtroom, I watched as woman after woman stood to testify against bail. Each story was different, but the pattern was the same. Trust betrayed. Money. Stolen lives. Shattered. Ray. The judge's voice pulled me from my thoughts. Would you like to make a statement? I stood, feeling the weight of every woman's eyes. Your Honor. I'm not here to talk about what Damon took from me. I'm here to talk about what he tried to take from all of us, our dignity, our self-worth, our trust in ourselves. Damon shifted in his seat as I continued, but he failed. Because what he never understood is that women like us, we don't break, we rebuild, we support each other, and we fight back. The judge nodded thoughtfully, and the trust your grandmother established is already helping his victims recover their losses, but more importantly, it's helping them recover themselves. Objection. Damon's lawyer stood. This is irrelevant to the bail hearing. On the contrary, the judge replied. It speaks directly to the defendant's pattern of behavior and the community's response to it. She turned back to me. Continue. Mira. There's nothing more to say, Your Honor, except that my grandmother saw through him years ago, and she made sure he wouldn't hurt anyone else. Your grandmother sounds like a remarkable woman. I smiled, feeling Grandma Isabella present strongly. She was, and she taught me that true strength isn't in tearing others down. It's in helping them stand up. The judge denied bail, citing flight risk and the extensive evidence of ongoing criminal enterprise. As they led Damon away, he caught my eye one last time. This isn't over, he mouthed. Actually. Sophia whispered beside me. It is outside. The group of women gathered on the courthouse steps, sharing stories, exchanging numbers, building connections. "Look at what you started," Sadie said. Joining us? No, I corrected her. "Look at what Grandma started. We're just carrying it forward." Sophia linked her arm through mine. "So, what's next?" I watched the sun rise over the courthouse, thinking of all the other demons out there, all the women who needed help. "Now," I said, "we get to work. You need to see this." Michael burst into my office, waving her tablet. Someone leaked Damon's client list. I looked up from the stack of victim statements. I'd been reviewing what she turned the tablet around, showing me a news article, all his contacts, his targeting strategy, everything. It's gone viral. My phone immediately lit up with calls and messages. Sophia's name flashed first. "Have you seen it?" she asked before I could speak just now. "Any idea who leaked it?" "Not yet. But that's not the important part. Check your email." I pulled up my inbox, finding dozens of new messages, women sharing stories, asking for help, offering support. "It's happening everywhere," Sophia continued. "They're all coming forward." Michael perched on my desk, scrolling through social media. "It's trending, Damon's dupes." "That's terrible," I said, but couldn't help smiling. "But effective," Michaela countered. "Look at these comments. Women are warning each other, sharing red flags, offering resources." My office door opened again as Sadie rushed an emergency meeting at Oliver's office. Now, 19 minutes later, we sat around Oliver's conference table.
Me, Sadie,
Sophia, and representatives from 3 different women's advocacy groups. "The DA wants to make a deal," Alan announced, laying out documents. "No," Sophia's response was immediate. "He doesn't get to walk away from this, not that kind of deal." Oliver clarified. "They want him to name names, his entire network, in exchange for a slightly reduced sentence." "How slightly?" I asked. 19 years instead of 29. Sadie whistled. "He'll never take it. He already has." Oliver slid a paper across the table. "This arrived an hour ago. Full confession, names, dates, bank accounts, everything." "Why?" Sophia's voice shook.
Why now?
"Because I realized he knows the leaked list is just the beginning. He's trying to control the narrative." "Too late for that." Michael turned her tablet around again, showing us more headlines. 3 of his partners have already been arrested. 3 more turned themselves in. It's falling like dominoes. Sadie grinned. My phone buzzed with another message, this one from a number I didn't recognize. The text contained only a photo. Grandma Isabella Garden, taken years ago. She was sitting on her favorite bench, smiling at the camera. "Look at the date," I showed Sadie. "This was taken the day she changed her will." "She knew," Sophia said softly. "She knew this would happen." "Not just knew," Alan corrected, "planned for it. That trust she set up. It's not just for financial support. It's designed to fund investigations, legal aid, counseling, everything needed to take down operations like Damon's." Speaking of the trust, Sadie pulled out her laptop. "We've had over 99 applications since the list leaked, women from all over the country." I thought about Grandma's letter, her vision of helping others rebuild. "We're going to need a bigger office, already on it," Michael said. "I've been talking to that women's center downtown. They have a whole floor available."
Perfect.
I stood up, energized. "Let's turn this into something bigger than Damon ever imagined, a support network," Sophia suggested. "More than that," I said. "A movement, education, prevention, recovery. Everything we wished we'd had." "Isabella Legacy," Sadie said suddenly. "That's what we should call it." The name felt right, a tribute to the woman who'd seen the bigger picture, who'd turned her own pain into purpose. "There's something else," Alan said, pulling out one final document. "Isabella left instructions about this too. She wanted the foundation to be run by survivors. For survivors." Sophia straightened in her chair. "We could help so many people. We already are." Michaela showed us her tablet again. The hashtag had evolved. Damon's dupes had become stronger together.
My phone buzzed again.
Another unknown number, another woman reaching out for help. This time I knew exactly what to say. "Welcome to the family," I typed back. "You're not alone anymore." Looking around the table at these women who'd become my strength, Sadie, with her unwavering support. Sophia, with her newfound purpose. Michael, with her fierce loyalty. I felt Grandma Isabella's presence stronger than ever.
Okay.
I said, pulling out a notebook, let's get to work. These women need us.
No.
Sophia corrected gently. We need each other. That's what makes this different from everything Damon tried to destroy. She was right in trying to break us. He'd actually brought us together, creating something stronger than he could ever imagine. Isabella Legacy. I wrote at the top of the page, where healing helps others heal. Grandma would have liked that. The courtroom fell silent as Damon was let in for sentencing. 3 months had passed since the list leaked, and everything had changed. He looked smaller, somehow his designer suit replaced by prison orange, his confident smirk gone. I'll rise. The bailiff called. I stood between Sophia and Charlotte, one of the women we'd helped through Isabella Legacy. Behind us, dozens more filled the benches, a united front of survivors. Before I deliver the sentence, the judge began. Would any of the victims like to make a final statement? I hadn't planned to speak, but something in Damon's defeated posture propelled me forward. Your Honor. I started feeling every eye in the room. I'm not here to talk about punishment. I'm here to talk about transformation. Damon's head snapped up his eyes, meeting mine for the first time. When this man entered our lives, he saw us as targets, weak, vulnerable, easy marks. I gestured to the women behind me, but look at us now. Sophia stood, then Charlotte, then others, one by one, until the entire gallery was on its feet. In the past 3 months, Isabella Legacy has helped over 199 women recover from financial abuse. We've launched education programs in 3 states. We've partnered with banks to create fraud prevention protocols. Objection, Damon's lawyer interrupted. This isn't relevant to sentencing. I disagree. The judge replied. Please continue. Ms. Ray. The point is, Your Honor. What started as one man's scheme to destroy women has become a movement to empower them. Every dollar he stole, every life he tried to ruin has been transformed into something stronger, and the foundation. The judge asked, how is it funded? I smiled. Finally, understanding the full brilliance of Grandma's plan with his money, Your Honor. Every cent recovered from his accounts, every asset seized. It all goes back into helping his victims, and not just his victims, but anyone who's been financially abused. Damon stood abruptly. You can't do that. That's my money.
No.
Sophia called from behind me. It's blood, money, and now it's being used for healing. The judge banged her gavel. Mr. Duncan, sit down or you'll be removed. This isn't over, he snarled. You think you've won. I still have contacts resources you don't know about. Actually. Alan stood holding up a document. We found those 3. This morning's raids recovered another $13 million in hidden assets. Damon's face went pale. That's impossible. Your partner Marco turned over everything I said quietly. All your backup accounts, all your offshore holdings, everything. Marco Damon's voice cracked, but he was my best friend. Sophia finished, amazing how loyalty crumbles. When faced with 29 years in prison, the judge cleared her throat. If there's nothing else, I'm ready to deliver my sentence.
Wait.
Damon called out desperately, I can help you find more money. Other operations like mine, just please. 25 years. The judge announced, cutting him off. No possibility of parole for 19, and every asset you own will be liquidated to compensate your victims. As they led him away, Damon stopped in front of me. I made you, he whispered.
No.
I replied. My grandmother made me. You just showed me how strong I could be. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered around us. Ms. Ray. What's next for Isabella Legacy? I looked at the women surrounding me. Not victims anymore, but survivors, leaders, warriors. We're just getting started. Sophia answered. Stepping forward next week, we launch our national hotline. The month after that, our first shelter opens and the money. Another reporter called out, what happens when Damon's assets run out? They won't. Sadie joined us holding up her phone. 3 more organizations just pledged matching funds. Corporations want to partner with us. This is bigger than Damon now. My phone buzzed a message from Michael at the new office. You need to see this. Another ring just got exposed in Miami. Women asking for our help excuse us. I told the reporters. We have work to do. As we walked down the courthouse steps, Charlotte caught my arm. Thank you, she said softly, for showing us. We weren't alone. We never were. I replied, thinking of Grandma Isabella. We just needed someone to remind us. Sophia linked arms with us both. So Miami, I grinned, feeling stronger than ever. Miami. And then wherever else we're needed. Because that's what Grandma had really left us. Not just money or property, but a purpose, a mission, a legacy of turning pain into power, betrayal into brotherhood, weakness into strength. You know what this means. Sadie called from a head road trip, and just like that, we were laughing, moving forward, ready for whatever came next, because we weren't just survivors anymore. We were warriors, and we had work to do. You're sure about this? Sadie asked. As we stood in Grandma Isabella garden, the autumn air was crisp, leaves dancing around our feet completely. I handed her the deed to the house. The foundation needs a proper home somewhere that feels safe. Sophia emerged from the back door carrying a box of supplies. The contractors can start renovations next week, turn the upstairs into counseling offices, the basement into a training center, and the garden Michael called from where she was clearing. If Oliver leaves stays exactly as it is. I said firmly this was Grandma's sanctuary. Now it can be sanctuary for others. Charlotte arrived with coffee for everyone, her eyes bright with excitement. The first support group starts tonight. We already have 13 women signed up. Make that 13, a voice called from the garden gate. We turned to see a woman standing there, clutching her purse tightly. Saw your website about financial abuse. Sophia stepped forward immediately, her voice gentle. Come in, you're safe here. As Sophia led the woman inside, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. The woman staring back wasn't a victim or even just a survivor. She was a warrior, just like Grandma had been males. Here, Sadie announced, waving a stack of envelopes, more donations, more volunteer applications. And what's this? She held up a letter with a familiar handwriting. My hand shook as I opened it. It's from Damon. Everyone froze. Dear Presley, I read aloud. I finally understand what your grandmother saw in me, a small man trying to make himself bigger by making others smaller, the money, the cons, the manipulation. It was all because I couldn't stand seeing strong women. But sitting here in my cell watching news reports about Isabella legacy, I realize you've won in a way I never could. You built something I only destroyed. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I want you to know you were never nothing. I was. Silence fell over the garden. Well, Michael finally said that's unexpected. It doesn't change anything. I folded the letter carefully, but maybe it means we really did break the cycle. Inside we could hear Sophia talking with a new arrival, her voice carrying through the open window. The first step is the hardest, but look around. Every woman here has stood where you're standing, even you. The woman asked quietly. Even me, and now I help others find their strength, just like Presley helped me find mine. My phone buzzed. Alan calling with updates about the Miami case. 3 more arrests, millions in recovered assets, dozens of women coming forward. We need to expand. Sadie said, reading the message over my shoulder. Other cities are asking for help, setting up their own branches. Then we'll help them. I replied. That's what Grandma would have done. Saw emerged from the house with a new arrival, who looked slightly less frightened now. Luna's going to stay for the support group tonight, she announced. Welcome to the family. I smiled. Would you like to see the garden? This was my grandmother's special place. As we walked among the flowers, I told Luna about Grandma Isabella, about her strength and foresight, about how she turned her pain into purpose. I never thought I'd feel strong again, Luna admitted, touching a late-blooming rose. Neither did I. Sophia joined us, but that's the beauty of this place. We heal by helping others heal. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the garden. Women began arriving for the support group, each carrying their own story, their own pain, their own hope for healing. Ready? Sadie asked. As we gathered in Grandma's living room, now transformed into a warm meeting space. I looked around at these faces, some familiar, some new, all part of something bigger than ourselves. Sophia, who'd turned her betrayal into purpose. Charlotte, who'd found her voice helping others. Luna taking her first steps toward healing, and somewhere watching over us all. Grandma Isabella, whose legacy lived on in every woman we helped more than ready. I replied, let's begin, because that's what warriors do. We begin again, and again, and again. We turn our scars into strength, our pain into power, our endings into new beginnings. And somewhere in a prison cell, a small man was finally understanding just how big women could be when they stood together. But that wasn't our story anymore. Our story was here in this garden, in this house, in these moments of healing and hope. Welcome, everyone. I said to the group, who would like to share first. And as the stories began to flow, I felt Grandma's presence stronger than ever, not in the past, but in the future. We were building one woman, one story, one moment of strength at a time. This was her real legacy, and it was just